We live in a world where everyone wants to lead, but few want to serve. We chase titles, not trust. We measure leadership by how many people listen to us, not how many we listen to. But real leadership isn't about being first. It's about being last. Leaders eat last isn't a quote. It's a mirror. It asks one simple question: when things get hard, do you protect your people or do you protect your position? Because in every team, in every company, in every family, there comes a moment when safety is tested. And the true leader is revealed not by what they say, but by who they choose to go hungry for. When leaders eat last, morale rises, loyalty deepens, and people stop working for you. They start working with you. The urgency today isn't to have more leaders. It's to have more protectors. Because the world doesn't need another boss who commands. It needs another human who cares. Leadership doesn't start when everything is easy. It begins when everything is uncomfortable. It's not born in moments of certainty or applause, but in moments of pressure, doubt, and silence. The comfort zone is where followers wait. The discomfort zone is where leaders rise. Most people want the title of leadership without the tension that comes with it. But true leadership is forged in the furnace of unease, where decisions cost something, where standing firm feels lonely, and where doing the right thing comes before doing the easy thing. A man discovers his capacity for leadership the moment he steps into discomfort for the sake of others. It's in the late nights of responsibility, the quiet moments of restraint, the battles he fights without recognition. The world teaches men to prove themselves through dominance, but real leadership for a man is not about control. It's about consistency. It's the strength to remain calm when chaos invites reaction, to stay grounded when ego demands validation. When a man chooses discomfort, chooses to lead even when no one claps, he earns a kind of authority that can't be taken from him because it's rooted in character, not status. For women, leadership in discomfort looks different but carries the same weight. It often means leading with empathy in a world that mistakes it for weakness. It means standing firm in spaces that weren't built for her voice, making choices that might cost acceptance but preserve authenticity. A woman's leadership shines brightest when she refuses to shrink herself to make others comfortable. When she embraces discomfort, she breaks ceilings not with noise, but with quiet courage. Her leadership doesn't come from being louder. It comes from being truer. Discomfort reveals what we truly value. When things are easy, anyone can seem strong, composed, and self-assured. But when the storm hits, when comfort disappears, our priorities become visible. The leader's question becomes simple: do I protect my people or my pride? Every leader faces that line between what's comfortable and what's right. The moment we choose right over comfort, trust begins to form. That's when people stop watching your words and start believing in your actions. Comfort makes leaders soft, but discomfort builds loyalty. The people around you aren't inspired when you succeed. They're inspired when you struggle and stay steady. They trust you when you don't flinch, when you carry the weight instead of shifting it. Every team, every family, Every relationship needs someone willing to lean into the tension, to be the calm in uncertainty, to take the first step into discomfort so others can follow safely behind. Leadership isn't about having the answers. It's about standing in the questions without running. It's about trading of being liked for the discomfort of being real. The moment a man or woman decides that safety isn't the goal, but service, is something changes in how they move. They stop chasing comfort and start creating trust. Because when comfort ends, leadership finally begins. Trust isn't built through promises, it's built through sacrifice. It's not about saying, "You can count on me," but proving it when it costs something. Every relationship, every team, every form of leadership demands a price, and that price is comfort. When a leader chooses to put someone else's needs before their own, they send a signal stronger than any speech. You matter more than my convenience. That's the soil where trust begins to grow, not in sunlight and praise, but in the shadow of what we're willing to give up. For men, trust is often confused with control. Many believe being trusted means being in charge, being the one who knows everything, who never falters. But real trust doesn't come from dominance. It comes from restraint. A man earns trust when he chooses to protect rather than prove, when he sacrifices his ego to create safety for others. It's in the moments he could react, but instead listens, when he could walk away, but chooses to stay, that those around him start to believe in his steadiness. Sacrifice softens pride, and that's what allows trust to take root. Because people don't follow the loudest man in the room. They follow the one who stands last when it's hardest. For women, the experience of trust through sacrifice often carries deeper emotional weight. Women have long been conditioned to give, to nurture, to hold things together when others fall apart. But the kind of sacrifice that builds trust isn't about being endlessly available. It's about being courageously authentic. It's when a woman chooses to stay true to her values, even when it costs her comfort, approval, or belonging. When she risks misunderstanding for the sake of integrity, others begin to trust her not just for what she does, but for who she is. Her sacrifices remind people that strength and softness can coexist, and that empathy is not submission. It's leadership in its purest form. Sacrifice always leaves a mark, and that's why it's powerful. It's visible. People notice when you stay late to help, when you take responsibility for mistakes, when you choose principle over profit. They see when you protect someone who can't repay you. Those moments don't just inspire, they bond. Trust grows in those quiet, unseen acts of giving something up for the greater good. It's not built in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where leaders bleed quietly, love fiercely, and show up when it's least convenient. The reason sacrifice builds trust is simple: it proves intention. Words can lie, but pain cannot. When someone sacrifices, they reveal what truly matters to them. And that's why followers become loyal, partners become safe, and families become strong. Not because everything goes right, but because someone is willing to lose something to keep the rest standing. Trust isn't the reward for leadership, it's the result of it. And every act of sacrifice whispers a message louder than any command: you are safe with me. The strongest leaders are not defined by how much they gain, but much they guard. Leadership isn't proven by the rewards one earns, but by the risks one takes to protect others. When people feel safe under your watch, they give more than effort. They give trust, creativity, and loyalty. A leader who protects before he profits understands something deeper than success. He understands that profit without protection is temporary, but protection builds a legacy. The instinct to shield, to stand in front when danger comes, is what separates those who lead from those who merely manage. For men, protection is wired into their psychology. But over time, culture has twisted it into something performative, measured in power, possessions, or pride. True masculine leadership isn't about dominance. It's about defense. It's the quiet strength of a man who absorbs pressure so others don't have to. It's when he chooses responsibility over recognition, when he holds the line, even when no one is watching. A man who protects first doesn't need to announce his worth. His actions speak louder than any title. When he places people before personal gain, he builds a kind of influence that can't be bought, because people follow him not out of fear, but out of faith. For women, leadership through protection often shows up in a different but equally powerful form. It's the instinct to preserve emotional safety, to create space where others can be seen and heard without judgment. A woman who leads this way doesn't compete to win. She connects to strengthen. Her protection is not physical, it's relational. She shields her team from blame. She guards their confidence in moments of failure. And she protects their humanity when performance tries to define their worth. In doing so, she redefines leadership itself, not as authority over others, but as responsibility for them. Profit-driven leadership is easy when times are good, but protection-driven leadership is tested when times are hard. It's in the moments of scarcity, pressure, and fear that a leader's motives are revealed. Does he hold on to what's his, or does he shield his people from the fallout? The answer to that question decides whether a team survives or fractures. People don't remember the leader who took the biggest share. They remember the one who took the first hit. Protection earns loyalty because it tells people, you are safe with me, even when I'm not safe. That's the deepest form of respect a leader can earn. When leaders protect before they profit, something remarkable happens. People stop working for pay and start working for purpose. They invest not because they have to, but because they want to. Protection fuels belonging, and belonging drives performance. It's the difference between a team that functions and a team that fights for each other. Leadership at its strongest isn't about having the most. It's about giving the most before taking anything at all. The world doesn't remember those who profited first, it remembers those who protected first. Fear divides, empathy defends. Fear tells us to protect ourselves, while empathy teaches us to protect each other. Leadership shaped by fear builds barriers that isolate, but leadership shaped by empathy builds shields that unite. When a leader operates from fear, they control, micromanage, and demand. When they operate from empathy, they listen, understand, and empower. The difference is subtle but life-changing. One breeds compliance, the other creates connection. Fear might build quick obedience, but empathy builds lasting loyalty. The strongest teams are never driven by fear of failure. They're fueled by the trust that comes from being understood. For men, fear often hides behind pride. Many men are taught that showing emotion is weakness, that empathy is softness, and that strength means distance. But true masculine leadership begins the moment a man replaces control with care. A man who leads through empathy isn't less strong, he's more secure. He knows that authority doesn't come from intimidation, but from inspiration. When a man leads with empathy, he creates an atmosphere where others don't have to perform strength to be accepted. He builds shields, not walls. His empathy becomes protection. Protection for honesty, for vulnerability, and for trust to breathe. People don't fear him, they feel safe around him. And that safety becomes the invisible force that moves everyone forward. For women, empathy has long been both her power and her burden. The world often asks women to care deeply, but punishes them when they do. Yet, the greatest female leaders are those who refuse to trade empathy for efficiency. They understand that empathy is not about emotion alone, it's about insight. It's the ability to read a room, to sense pain before it's spoken, to build shields around others' dignity while holding her own. A woman who leads this way doesn't let fear silence her softness. Instead, she uses that softness as her strength. Her empathy doesn't make her fragile, it makes her fierce, because she knows that connection isn't weakness. It's the foundation of trust. Fear always builds from insecurity, while empathy grows from confidence. Leaders who fear losing control, fear being judged, or fear appearing vulnerable will always distance themselves. They build walls to feel safe, not realizing that those walls also block connection. But leaders who lead with empathy invite openness. They allow people to bring their full selves, to be human, imperfect, and real. And that's what makes teams resilient. Empathy doesn't remove problems. It gives people the courage to face them together. In every organization, family, or relationship, fear and empathy are always at war. One isolates, the other includes. One silences voices, the other amplifies them. Fear makes leaders defend their image. Empathy makes leaders defend their people. When a leader chooses empathy, they create shields, not to hide behind, but to protect what matters most: trust, belonging, and humanity. That's when people stop working out of fear of punishment and start showing up out of pride to protect each other. People don't follow titles, they follow safety. A title may give authority, but it doesn't create trust. People might obey a boss, but they only believe in a leader who makes them feel secure. Leadership is not about power over others. It's about the protection of others. When people feel safe, they open up, take risks, speak truthfully, and bring their best selves to the table. When they don't, they retreat, perform, and hide. The strength of any organization, family, or relationship is measured not by how much control a leader has, but by how much safety they create. For men, safety begins with presence. A man's leadership is not defined by how loud he speaks, but by how steady he stands. Many men confuse authority with distance, believing that leadership means being above others, not among them. But safety is built when a man becomes a fortress, not a fence, when he protects those around him rather than separating himself from them. A man who leads with calmness in chaos gives others permission to breathe. He becomes the anchor in uncertainty. His people don't follow him because they have to. They follow because he's the one they trust not to let go when the storm hits. True leadership for a man is not about being the first to succeed, but the last to flee. For women, safety in leadership often comes from emotional intelligence, the ability to sense what people need before they even speak it. A woman who leads with this awareness builds belonging wherever she builds. Her presence tells people, you are seen, you are safe, you are valued. Yet she often has to fight against a system that mistakes her empathy for weakness. But the truth is, people feel safest when they are led by someone who understands them. When a woman leads with empathy and strength combined, she creates an environment where honesty thrives and fear fades. Her leadership doesn't demand loyalty. It earns it through care. Safety is not a soft concept. It's a strategic one. When people feel safe, they take initiative, they innovate, and they support one another. But when fear governs the environment, self-preservation takes over. People start playing defense instead of offense. They stop telling the truth because truth becomes dangerous. A culture without safety might achieve short-term results, but it will never sustain long-term trust. Safety is what gives teams courage to fail, and failure is what allows them to grow. That's why great leaders don't chase titles, they build trust. Titles attract attention, safety inspires devotion. People will always remember how a leader made them feel, not what they were called. The most powerful leaders are those whose presence lowers the temperature in a room. They protect first and profit later. They listen before they lead. They build circles, not hierarchies. Their people follow them into uncertainty because they know they'd be abandoned when things go wrong. Safety is invisible, but its effects are undeniable. It's the heartbeat of every thriving culture. The moment people feel safe, they stop surviving under leadership and start thriving within it. Because at the core of every follower's loyalty is not admiration. It's trust in their leader's protection. When you eat last, your people give you their first. The moment a leader chooses to put others before themselves, something profound shifts in the dynamic of trust. Leadership is not about being served. It's about serving. The act of eating last is symbolic. It means the leader ensures everyone else is cared for before they take their share. It means when there's credit, they give it away. And when there's blame, they take it. It means they carry the responsibility that others shouldn't have to bear alone. People don't give their best because of pressure. They give it because they feel protected, valued, and seen. And that happens only when they know their leader would sacrifice comfort to ensure their well-being. For men, this principle challenges the very definition of strength. Many men grow up believing leadership is about being in front, being first, being dominant. But true strength isn't shown in taking more. It's shown in taking less so that others can have more. A man who eats last is a man who understands that leadership is not about feeding his people, but feeding his people. He measures success not by what he gains, but by how much he gives. When a man steps back so others can step forward, he earns a loyalty that can't be commanded. His team follows him not because of his title, but because of his character. They see him serve, and in return, they serve back with their hearts, not just their hands. For women, eating last carries a different, but equally powerful meaning. Women are often expected to care, to nurture, to give. But leadership asks for something deeper than obligation. It asks for intentional sacrifice, not unconscious selflessness. When a woman leads by putting her people first, it's not because she's expected to. It's because she chooses to. That choice transforms her leadership from emotional labor into emotional power. She leads with empathy, but not at the cost of her strength. When her team sees her listen, protect, and advocate before she promotes herself, they give her their first trust, their first effort, and their first loyalty. They know she doesn't just lead from authority. She leads from alignment. The act of eating last is not about deprivation. It's about devotion. It tells your people, your well-being matters more than my recognition. It's an unspoken contract that builds the foundation of unity. When leaders eat first, teams compete. But when leaders eat last, teams collaborate. The difference is visible in the culture. One breeds insecurity, the other breeds safety. People naturally mirror their leader's behavior. If they see their leader sacrifice for them, they'll sacrifice for each other. That's how trust circulates. It's contagious. The leader's humility becomes the team's motivation. The reason people give their first when their leader eats last is because sacrifice earns respect in ways success never can. Anyone can lead when resources are plenty. The test comes when things are scarce, when credit is limited, when comfort is rare, when pressure is high. That's when people watch what their leader does. Do they grab for safety, or do they shield others from harm? The ones who choose to protect before they profit, to give before they gain, are the ones people will follow through anything. Because deep down, people commit to a leader's plan. They commit to a leader's heart. When a leader eats last, it tells the group, you belong here. It creates a sense of family, not just function. It builds a culture where effort feels appreciated, not exploited. In a world that often rewards the first to take, true leaders stand out because they choose to wait. They delay their comfort for the sake of their people's confidence. And when they finally sit down to eat, they find that their people have already filled their not with food, but with trust, loyalty, and respect. That's the paradox of leadership. When you eat last, you never go hungry because your people will always give you their first.